Together we can mobilize a global mission force to finish the task. This is your tribe.
Welcome to our latest Discipleship tribe. Today we have Carissa with us. Carissa Potter is a mobilizer. Apparently, we interview all different kinds of mobilizers around the world, but this one is especially special. She's from the States. She served with a team with all excited materials in their hands. And so why don't you tell us a bit more about yourself as a mobilizer and especially the things you're doing, Carissa?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I became a mobilizer before I knew what a mobilizer was. I was in college and in university and, was hearing about God's heart for the nations and this grand story throughout all of the narrative of scripture and what God was doing in the world. And that was, wow, how come I had never heard that before? And so I just started telling everyone that I knew because I wanted everyone to know, and trying to get everyone to be involved in God's mission, which later I learned, that's a mobilizer. And so, but the funny part of my story is that I was one of those young people who were really passionate and fiery. And so I was telling all my friends what they should do and not really with as much grace and humility as you should. And so my friends didn't really want to hear about it. And so, but I was a Sunday school teacher. And so I had a classroom full of 4 and 5-year-olds who had to listen to what I told them because they're kids, and I'm the teacher. And so I started teaching them about missions just because I really wanted to share what I was learning, and then began to see it transform the lives of these kids. And that's how I ended up becoming this really unique mobilizer who focused on mobilizing children to be a part of that story now. And that grew into even a bigger thing of mobilizing whole families and equipping them to do that in their home. And so it'll be 15 years that I've been on this journey, mobilizing all over the world. And I feel like I'm learning new things every day. So,
I remember the first time we met. It was like in Dubai, right? It was
living overseas.
The GMC Global Mobilization Consultation, which took place in Dubai. That was a number of years ago. But at that time, I think I was wondering why we have a mobilization team in the Middle East, and you guys like serving there and with different capacities, not just for some well-known like courses like Perspective, but you're doing for kids. And so tell us a bit more about your journey, especially serving overseas. Why overseas? Because since you're so-called a Sunday school teacher, well, just for one church is busy enough. So what is the idea, or even bring this different materials and concepts of mobilization for children, which should be took place everywhere?
Well, the truth, Ray, is I moved to the Middle East because I needed to shorten my commute to work. I was traveling to Africa and Asia and all throughout that region almost every month, every other month, which from the US is a really far distance. And being where we were in the Middle East put us in the center of that area of the world, which at the time, I had tried to mobilize families in the US for a long time and, saw some fruit in that, but it was real slow getting families to catch that vision. But at the very first GMC in Indonesia, very long time ago, I met with a fellow mobilizer from Ethiopia, and he was like, I want you to come and mobilize parents in Ethiopia, which we'd never done anything like that up to that point. And we went, and it was fire. 50% of the population in the continent of Africa is under the age of 15. So the church is thinking about the next generation and these young people. And so it just started growing everywhere. And we were in Sri Lanka and in China and all over that part of the world. And so Dubai, where I was, put me in a place where I could work with all these different churches in these different regions. But also that city is so strategic because there's people from all over the world coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. And so it was an incredible place to do mobilization and to help people catch the vision. And most of them moved home within 2 or 3 years back to their home country. And they would take that vision with them back to their church. And so it was an incredible opportunity and honor to be a part of what God was doing in that city in that time.
Oh, that's really interesting. It's because of you want to shorten your commute to move to the other side of the world.
Yeah.
So for some of these folks who are maybe watching this or listening to us, maybe you can let us know what so-called the We Family, the ministry is called, and also some of the projects you have been working on through the years. Just give us a glimpse and how they have been turned out for you.
Yeah, so WEAVE is a ministry of the CMM, the Center for Mission Mobilization, and WEAVE's desire is to help everyday parents, the parents that are in any church on any given Friday or Sunday, depending on what day church meets and what country you're in, just understand the grand narrative of God redeeming the nations, which began with a family. God made that promise that I will bless you and you'll be a blessing to the nations. He made it to Abraham and then to his son Isaac and then to his son Jacob. It was a multi-generational promise. And so we believe that families are a vital part of seeing the task completed. And so over the years, we've developed different tools and resources that really equip parents by, one, just helping them understand missions and the unreached. So kind of your basic mission education course that speaks to a different audience. A lot of stay-at-home moms or moms of young children, they're not going to be able to come to maybe a 15-week or a 10-week course on a in the night, but we've provided tools that really speak to the season of life that they're in, and just help them then also think through, how do I infuse that into the discipleship of my children in their home, and helping their kids, one, think about the future, like, what is my part in God's story as I grow up into adulthood, but also, like, what is my part right now? How has God uniquely blessed our family unit, mom, dad, kids, total, to be a blessing from our home to the nations, and to think of that twofold reality of the home. And so for a long time, our primary resource, which you have exposure to, is our Big Story training. We've done in 15 countries. Just a 2-day training that kind of walks through the biblical basis of mission and who the unreached are, and why families are strategic. And it's grown, and it's just borne a lot of fruit, but we couldn't get it where it needed to go fast enough. And so we were like, what if we took all the things we teach in this training and made it accessible so that anyone in the world could download it and have access to it, and they could do it with their spouse, with their community group at church, with some friends. And that's when we just this year came out with this new resource, Parenting with a Global Vision, which is a 6-week study that walks parents through just the story of God and what how their family fits into that, and how to disciple their children. and that reality. And then we've also created, also available for everyone anywhere on our website, these books, One Big Vision, One Big Story, and One Big Adventure. And they are family discipleship tools that you can use in the home. They're simple, and they focus on God's word, his world, and his work, and infuse that into those everyday moments that you share with your kids at home.
Well, one of these things, which was fascinating to me, is the concept of not just coaching the Sunday school teachers, but raising the awareness of missions, of, especially for the parents.
Yeah.
So because when you talk about where you started, you are a Sunday school teacher. That's where the journey of my wife as a mobilizer started as well. She feels like, oh, my husband is a mobilizer, so what is my role in this big picture? And so she was, doing housewife things, cleaning house and singing and praying, and God gave her some kind of a Kairos moment and saying that you can actually make a difference just within your family. We're promoting global prayer digest. We're promoting all these different materials and showing prayer cast videos. We are doing this, doing that. But why don't we just start from our home and our own Sunday schools? So how does that come to a concept as a holistic mobilization effort?
Yeah, I mean, Sunday school is the place where we naturally think of children, and it's great. We should infuse missions into our Sunday school, just like we should infuse it into the adult service, or with college students, or any demographic section of the church. But the reality is, we have, a child has 168 hours in its week. So do you and I, although we try to pretend like we have more sometimes. And if, say, an average child probably sleeps about 8 hours a night, they have 112 hours in a week when they're awake. Well, how many of those hours are spent in Sunday school? Maybe 1, 2, 3, if you're in a country where you do a lot of church things. So where are the other 98, 99 hours spent? Well, at school and at home. Most of their hours are at home. And so what the church is doing in a Sunday school should be supporting what is happening in the home, and not trying to substitute what is doing in the home. And I think a lot of times we kind of take the jurisdiction of discipling our kids and we put that on the church, and say, okay, you disciple my kids, let me drop them off, you teach them. But that's not what we see in Scripture. The discipleship of children is meant to be in the home. And we see that in Deuteronomy 6, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength.
Yeah.
And press these things on your children. Talk about it when you get up, when you lie down, when you walk along the road. And even with Abraham in Genesis 18, God says, this promise that I have given Abraham, that all the nations would be blessed. In order for that to happen, he says, teach these things to your children in your household, so that this promise might be fulfilled to you. And so, like, Abraham's job and this great mission of God that is extended through all these eras of history was to pass it on to his kids. And we see that in Psalm 78 too, that one generation tells the next generation about the works of the Lord. And so I think that's what we was trying to do, is help say, how do we bring back to parents this spiritual responsibility of discipling their kids, but also expand their vision to think through how their family can be a part of God's mission. And not just, learning about it on a Sunday in a Sunday school, but actually being active participants throughout the week.
Yeah, just following that question, the obvious challenge for that is, well, you need to have, parents with a global vision.
Yeah.
So for us as mobilizers and mission educators, well, if you can use that term, sometimes we just realize, and many people, especially within the church, we all know, we're aware of the Great Commission, but not everyone is missional. Because sometimes so-called the churchgoers are just culturally nominal or whatever. This is it's a something we should do. But being missional is something that really requires commitment and other things. And so I find it sometimes it's hard to just challenge the parents to be more missional, even they are Christians, and yeah, using the materials is one thing, but working alongside within is another. So how do you find it challenging? Because I'm just sharing from my personal experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think as mobilizers of families, we face the same challenges as any other mobilizer. People are distracted by many things. They're busy, and it's, it can be a challenge to get someone to embrace this new way of thinking and behaving in their life, which is why mobilizing kids is so strategic, because if we can build that into them from the very beginning, where praying for the unreached and supporting goers going to the unreached and, living that kind of life is just what they've always done. That's what they grew up doing. How is that going to change mobilization in the future, as these kids become adults? And so, yeah, it's a challenge, but I think, for us, it's coming back to the real basics of just this vision, like expanding their vision of these everyday moments and putting meaning and purpose into that, and not trying to we're not trying to add more to their schedule and give them more activity. It's how do we bring purpose into the activities you're already doing, and think about how your family is a part, of what's happening. How will they hear unless someone is, goes to them and tells them, right? We believe that. But how will they go unless they're sent? For every worker we send out among the unreached, we need lots of people behind them who are praying and financially supporting them and caring for them. And it's often the families in the church who take on that role, and play a big part in that. And so I think that's the thing I think the church can do the best at, is how to come alongside families and support them, because our parents, they need help. They need someone to teach them how to disciple their kids and help them grow in biblical knowledge and wisdom, and help them navigate the different ages as your kids grow, right? Parenting changes. Parenting a 2-year-old looks very different than parenting a 12-year-old. And so helping, that's part of the role of the church we see in Ephesians, is equipping the saints, and equipping parents to live that out, and providing opportunities for families to serve together. But I just like helping parents see, how do we shape the way our kids see the Bible, that God is the main character, and that he's always at work blessing his people for the purpose of making himself known. And it's been so cool how many times, Ray, we've been in a training or teaching somewhere, and we're talking about this idea of how we are helping our kids understand God. And so many times a parent has been like, wait, but I also have a part in God's story, not just my kids, me too, and they have that epiphany moment, that paradigm shifting moment. And I think it just connects with their heart in a different way.
So it's a bit like you're actually taken in on a journey, just like the kids, because the material is not just for the little ones, but also for them as a discipleship tool as well. just following that, hearing from you, you have been traveling a lot and maybe coaching in different contexts. How do you feel about working with others in other contexts, especially all these Mobi Index countries that you mentioned about Africa and others, but can you tell us a few stories that really impress you with the enthusiasm and the desire to learn and to encourage their own church in their context?
Yeah, I mean, collaboration is vital. I think specifically for us, like I can get on a plane and I can go just about anywhere, and I can teach and I can train, but the culture of family, the culture of family in Taiwan is very different than the culture of family in Ethiopia or in India. And who's going to know that culture better, you or me? I don't live in that culture, and so when we get to collaborate with mobilizers in these other countries, it's such a great opportunity for us to learn together. And I think they learn from us and we learn from them. And I think, that's that iron sharpening iron we read about in scripture. And I think we grow together and we just get that opportunity to see God at work and what we both bring to the table, and to take both of that, and use it together and use it, and just to like continue to support. And, many of the people that I've gone and trained with or have invited me to their country have become like family, they become close to me as we serve together and learn from one another. And it's just, I think it's a joy and an honor to serve together and to be able to share in those experiences, and to see what God is going to do, and then to pass it off and trust it to them, for them to run with it and use it and make it their own. Like I talked about the big story training earlier. We've been doing that since 2014. So we've done, I think, 51 big story trainings since then. And at this point, there's a woman in Ethiopia who's done more trainings than even I have, and I'm the one who helped write the thing. And so just they've been able to take it and use it and do things with it that are unique. But also for us in developing our tools and resources as our partners grew. I mean, this book right here, I mean, we did a pilot test with this book when we got the input of some national mobilizers. I mean, there's probably 15, 16 different people from 15, 16 different countries who have spoken into this resource and who have helped shaped it and made it what it is. And that's beautiful because now it's not just this resource that a few Americans made. We did a lot of the work on it, but it's got the voice of people from Africa and Asia and Latin America that have been infused into it. And to me, that makes it such a better resource.
Yeah. I think the very first time I heard about this concept as a frontier mobilizers is from CMM, and you guys have sent out mobilizers to different contexts and really move there as missionaries, but but you call it frontier mobilizers. So you live in the Middle East for some period of time. Now you're back to the States, but there are still a lot of people are still there in so-called the field. But I think the idea is to mobilize the field, become the mission field, become the mission harvest. So what is your personal take on that?
The mission field becoming the mission harvest, mission force.
Yeah, and also frontier mobilizers, the concept.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I really feel like the last 10 years that I've been living in that, like, we just see the fruit of it, and I think the church throughout Africa and Asia and Latin America and even Europe, parts of Eastern Europe are, so much to bring to the table, just wisdom and knowledge and experience. I know that I've grown from and benefited from, and just that for a lot of them, that cultural proximity, even if it's not geographic proximity, but just, I was a white American woman living in the Middle East for several years. I did not fit in very well, my culture is very different than the local Arab people that are there. But I grew up in Southern California, and so I have many friends who live there who are from Central America, from Mexico, that have come up, through California. And so I grew up kind of surrounded by more South American, Latin American culture. So it's familiar to me. And it actually reminds me so much of Arab culture. Like every time I was around Arab culture and living in the Middle East, I was like, wow, this is like, there's a lot of similarities with my Latin American friends back home.
Really? Wow.
And so to me, that's so strategic. It's not impossible, but it's a big thing to overcome and to learn that culture. And so, but also the church is just growing. We know that, right? Like the number of believers in the world don't look like me. Most of them look more like you and like my friends in Africa and Latin America. And so we want to see you step into all that God has planned in this era of history.
Yeah.
And we just want to be a part of it. Like God's going to do it. Like that's what his Holy Spirit does. He's the one working you. He's raising up his church throughout all that area of the world. And I think we're like, we just want to be right where God is working. We want to step into the flow. And just link arms and say, hey, we want to be in it with you. What can we do? Whether that's providing you with a resource or praying for you or coaching or doing it alongside of you, whatever that looks like, at least that's my heart,
Just lately, I listened to one of the great talks from our good friend, Dr. Todd Johnson, on this very subject of a shift of gravity of Christianity. So it was apparent to many of us that nowadays, Christianity and especially the emerging churches are coming from the Latin America, the Asia, and Africa. But we still need to have a lot to need to pick up. I think it's not just about the numbers, but the zeal, the desire to become more missional, and also to be involved with global world evangelism. And so when I look at the map behind you, that's all these pins that where you have been to. That's a lot of places. Me myself, as somebody that have traveled also a lot, because I was serving on one of the ON ships in early stage of my my ministry. So I also got a chance to see God's world. So the pattern is, the more you see, the more you know, is that, well, there are so much needs to be done, and we really need to work together. Actually, it's such a big task. It's almost impossible to work by just one organization or even just one so-called the alliance. We need everybody. So a global mobilization network is probably one of these visions that the founders of these visionaries. So how do you see a global mobilization can actually provide, or you expect that global mobilization network can actually become a network that to share resources and all of that? I've been involved with some of the consultations. Does that bring any sense to you?
Yeah, I loved, wasn't it, I think it was GMC Kenya, I think was the first time we introduced the idea of This Is My Tribe. And I really loved that theme because I think that's what's really true. I've been to all the GMCs, and that's the sense I get every time. Is it's kind of like a family reunion. You know, you get to see. Oh, I'm getting to see everyone again. And what I love when you're at a GMC event is the sense of just collaboration happening everywhere. Like when you go to a meal or a tea break, you just see the conversations and the ideas and the sharing that's happening. And I think that's the power of what the GMN can do outside of just one event, right? Like it's great if you can get to GMC and you can be a part of that. But what happens the other, 2-3 years in between each event? And I think that's, to me, what the benefit of the GMN is creating that collaboration and that ongoing sense of community, because it is too big. There's not anyone who can make one resource or one tool or one organization that could take it all on. And we need everyone, including families and children, to be a part of it. It's going to take the whole church using our time and our talents and our treasures, to complete the task. And so I think a lot of times being a mobilizer can feel, it's easy to get discouraged, I think, or to feel isolated, especially if you're living in a city or a region where there's not a lot of mission vision and you feel like you're pioneering something. And, that's true for, I think, a lot of the mobilizers who are a part of the GMN. They're not really in places where there's a lot going on. And so there's an encouragement, I think, that comes from us being in it together.
Just one last question. Maybe it's not a question, just an observation that I think the pandemic globally for the last 2 years have shaped a lot of our ministry landscape and the way we do things and work together, or lack of. We're supposed to have another GMC this year, but apparently it's not gonna be happening. A lot of travel limitations and also the borders are closed, and some countries are even under still today under severe situation. So how do you see that has shaped our effort as mobilizers? Did you get more opportunities online, and or how does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, we shifted online pretty quick. It was hard to imagine moving from doing, trainings and meetings in person to doing them online, but I think it created some really unique experiences. I mean, we've had 4 or 5 virtual big story trainings in the last year and a half, and in them we've had anywhere from like 3 to 10 different countries represented. Where normally I would just go and just do one in Egypt and only have Egyptians, or just do one in Ethiopia and only have Ethiopians. But this opportunity to bring people from all these different countries together and then to share their experiences together, I think it just really enriched the learning environment and just really changed kind of the perspective on some things, because you would get to hear a different voice with a different view. And so, although it's been hard to not be together in person and not be able to see each other face to face without a screen between us, I think, God's not thwarted. Like, he's not surprised. He wasn't like, oh, a global pandemic, that's not what was on my calendar. He knew well in advance what was going to happen. And I think there's always a purpose in that, and I think he's used it to do new things and cause us to think differently about the way we do things too. So
thank you very much. Today we have Carissa Potter, the director of the We Family Ministry, and who are from the States, and also serving alongside with global mobilizers everywhere, focusing on children, mobilization, and also parents as well. The latest project is called Parenting with a Global Vision. Can you show us the book again?
Yes.
Here we go.
It's
Thank you
free
very
to
much.
download. Go get your copy.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think there will be more languages and translations available, because we're like
Yes.
me, myself, and the team are working on the Chinese translation, and there will be more available online for many more. Excited. Thank you
Yeah.
very
Thanks
much
for
for your
having me.
time.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
yeah. So just one last word to encourage mobilizers around the world from you.
Yeah. Oh, wow. One last word. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, you can make it longer.
I know. Yeah. I just think smaller, think about the little ones in your midst, in your cities, in your churches, the next generation of people. And when you think about the harvest being plentiful, but the workers being few, some of those workers are small. They're young children in the homes of the people you're working with, and so start to ask God, what does that mean to include them in my mobilization vision?
Thank you, Carissa. Thank you for your time. This is your tribe, and this is my tribe, and we welcome you next time. Bye.